Why do so many businesses end up with a website they can't update or maintain? So, you've paid good money for a new website and it looks good on launch day. Everybody's pumped. Then, 6 months later, you need to add a new project to your portfolio, update a service page, swap a phone number, something easy. And either you can't figure out how to do it or you're scared to touch it because the last time you tried to touch it, something busted on you, right? Like you just all of a sudden you made one little switch and boom, your site's gone. So now you're emailing your agency asking them to change a paragraph and you're waiting several days to get a response to that or it gets missed and all the things. This is one of the most common problems I see with businesses and their websites. And here's the thing, it's almost never because the website looks bad. They usually look great. The problem is what happens after launch. So today I'm going to tell you exactly why this keeps happening and what you can actually do about it. Here's the honest truth about the web agency industry. A lot of agencies are run by people with very little true business experience. Typically, you've got a talented creative, they can design, they make things look great, they look incredible, but they're thinking about design and not about the person who has to log in and run a website on Tuesday morning when they've got 5,000 other things going on. So, what you end up with is a website that was built for the agency's workflow and not for your business. And it looks great in the portfolio. It may even win you an award. And you, the client, are literally trapped and stuck by this thing that you've invested in. So in the end, you feel held hostage by your own website. It's really not an accident. It's what happens when nobody thinks about the handoff and how you're going to utilize your website once the agency is done producing it. So let's talk about platform choice because this is where a lot of this stuff goes wrong literally from day one, and it happens frequently. There are two kinds of platforms, really. You've got your DIY builders, your Squarespace, Wix, Weebly, GoDaddy. They're fine if you're a solopreneur or somebody trying to get something spun up quick on your own. But as a professional agency, we rarely build anything on these because as the business grows, they're extremely limited. You just can't customize them the way that you need to as your business develops and grows and expands. And if your marketing works, you need to do that. So then you've got professional platforms like WordPress and Webflow and other custom platforms. Those are two we use the most. These give you a lot of flexibility, customization, and capacity. They're a real CMS that your team can update on their own. The problem is that even on the right platform, agencies sometimes build these things in a way that defeats the whole purpose of a CMS. And I'll give you an example as to how that happens. We have a client right now that's in the construction industry. They needed to be able to change and add some projects to their website to show off their work, update their portfolio. It's a basic need. But when they got under the hood, every project was hard coded, meaning there was no way for them to go in the site and do updates to this. So when they had to add a project, they had to call the agency and they end up waiting in line and paying for work. And something that should take 3, 4 minutes to do ended up resulting in a work order. That's not a technology problem. It's really a decision that was made when that website was built. The second thing that kills maintainability is unnecessary complexity. So, custom development is not bad. We do a lot of it. Sometimes you really need it. But when an agency layers in a bunch of custom code, stacks up plugins, builds bespoke functionality into a CMS, and then hands it over to you without explaining how it works, you're literally dependent upon them for forever. That's not really a good partnership situation. It's really a hostage situation. And what the tell is this, if the agency says just send a ticket every time you need a word changed, that's a red flag. It's not a feature. And that means they built something that only they can maintain. So, a well built website on a solid CMS should let you or anyone on your team make basic updates without having to call someone, text, image swaps, adding a page. This stuff should be in your hands and should be really easy to do. The handoff gap is the biggest problem that we see, and this is where all the damage often gets done. So agencies will treat launch day like the finish line. They ship the site, collect their final payment, and move on to the next project. Nobody sits down to talk about or walk you through how to use this thing. There's no recorded training, there's no documentation, there's no here's the 5 things you need to do the most, and here's how to do them. And so this creates what we call the handoff gap. It's not typically malicious, right? A lot of times it's just that the team has mentally moved on to the next thing in front of them and the training wasn't specified in your contract. And so they give you the most basic here to get you out of the way. And then when you go to work on it, you have problems. At Muletown, this is one of the things we do so differently. Almost every client that we build for moves into a care plan. It's hosting and maintenance, and we do more than just keeping the lights on those sites. You get a recorded walkthrough of your system and how it works. You learn how to update your pages, how to add content to them, how to do all the things that you actually need to do to have a working and useful website. And if you don't want to do it yourself, the way we work, just shoot us a ticket or give us a call and we'll take care of it. And typically we work in 30-minute blocks as part of those plans. You send a ticket, we take care of it fast. A lot of people are surprised, honestly, at how much we can do in 30 minutes. What would take them a half a day to figure out on their own, or the other agencies they've worked with are still trying to figure out how to respond, right? So here's something else worth knowing. If you've got a site that we didn't build and you're in this situation now, we offer what's called website rescue, and we can onboard your existing site into a care plan. We don't always have to rebuild things unless you're stuck in a true hostage situation. So if you're in the market right now for a new website and you're shopping agencies, here are some things that I'd probably tell you to pay attention to. Watch out for agencies that do fixed pricing with no discovery and no flexibility. A lot of times with fixed pricing, that agency quotes up a number, locks it in, and then anything that doesn't quite fit that or is going to involve extra work, they just don't do. And because it doesn't fit the budget, it just stops. And this ends up in project stalling. Things get cut. You end up with a site that went through the website mill, and it's basically just like not about your business anymore. It was about getting the website done and pushing it through to launch so that they can get paid. So a pretty website with no strategy behind it, it isn't growing your business. It just sits there and it becomes a sunk cost. Ask any agency you're considering, can you show me a CMS that you're building in and how I update a page? If they can't tell you how that works, ask them what the handoff looks like and whether there's training included. Ask them if you ever needed to change agencies after you went live. How hard would it be? If they stumble or fumble around on those questions, there's a very good chance they haven't thought about those things, or they don't want to tell you the real answers, and you should be concerned. So here's the bottom line. Most businesses end up with websites they can't maintain, not because they hired bad people, but because nobody had an honest conversation about what happens after launch day from the very beginning. So the fix is actually pretty simple. First, you got to start on the right platform. Second, don't build unnecessary complexity. Make sure there's a real handoff with a real training when your site goes live. If you already have a site you feel like you can't touch, it's fixable, but you need to understand what you're actually dealing with first. And a lot of times businesses don't even know what platform they're on or how their website was built. And that ends up being the biggest problem, the not knowing. As a business owner, that's like one of the most dangerous things. So if you're sitting on a website right now and you feel like you can't touch it or update it, or you're about to hire someone to build you one and you don't want to end up in this situation, let's have a chat. We do free strategy calls and we can look at what you've got, tell you what's holding you back, and give you a straight answer on what it would take to fix. If you go to muletowndigital.com/connect, you can book in there with Teresa. There's no pitch, there's no pressure, just an honest conversation about your business. Because at the end of the day, that's what we care about. It's very hard to grow a business on a website that does not function well and that will not update. So you paid good money for the site. or you're looking at paying good money for a site and you want to make 100% sure it's something you can work with, or if you're like, I don't ever want to touch my site, that's fine. But understand from the agency how much work it's going to take to keep the thing running and to make changes as needed. Thank you. As always, I'm Adam Silverman from Muletown Digital, and we look forward to connecting with you.